Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. This is David Johnson, and on behalf of ISM New Jersey, I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Supply Chain Information Flow. Today, you are in for a treat. I know I say that a lot, but you are really in for a treat now because we have who could possibly be the greatest marketing procurement person ever in the history of procurement and marketing. My friend, my personality mate, and one of my favorite people to talk to, Miss Sarah Scudder. Hey, Sarah, welcome.
That is quite an intro there.
Well, I try to make it fun and interesting for everyone, and just let people know exactly what they're in for. This might be trouble. So everybody buckle up.
Just because of our interview today, and it's crazy hot in Austin. So I moved to Austin end of last year, born and raised in California, used to cooler weather, no humidity. So this is my first Texas summer with heat and humidity, but I'm wearing one of my custom green suits today for the interview. So I figured it was worth it to be a little hot to be fancy for our chat today.
As we discussed, this shirt is not quite green. It's white with green checks. So I'm there with you. But I don't have the joy of being in a hot Austin summer. It's about 70 here in New Jersey.
Yeah, here, let's see what today it's under triple digits. So this is kind of a win, 91 degrees.
91 degrees, that's pretty good. We had a couple of those days this summer, but thankfully they're behind us, I think. I mean, I can't swim anymore, but what are we gonna do? So today we are going to talk about personal brand building. So if you're on this meeting, if you're sitting here, if you've been on LinkedIn, if you've been to any of a million different conferences, you probably know who Sarah Scudder is. She is synonymous with procurement, with marketing, with design, and like she's just such a personality. She's like everywhere. She's got podcasts, and she's got her own show, The Voice of Supply Chain, also with ISM. So let's talk about how you became the Sarah Scudder. How did you work on building your personal brand?
So I was planning to go into fashion. I majored in business. I had an emphasis in marketing. I had another double major in economics, but my dream and passion as a child was to produce runway shows. So I did modeling in high school. I'm 6 foot tall without heels. And I decided that I didn't want to actually go the modeling route. One, I don't necessarily have the right look, but it's a very cutthroat, brutal industry. By the time you're 30, your career is kind of over. But I was more interested in the business aspect about what was involved in production in the fashion space. So my plan was to graduate from college, move to London, LA, or New York, and work for a company that produced fashion shows, get my experience, learn how to run a company, and then eventually go out on my own. Well, my senior year in college, I was producing a major fundraising event for my sorority, which is Alpha Gamma Delta, go AGD. If anyone in the audience was Greek in college, put a shout out in the chat. Let me know what fraternity or sorority you are a part of. And we had to source and procure all this stuff for our event. Now, I didn't even know how to spell the word procurement, didn't know what supply chain was, didn't really have experience sourcing and putting contracts in place. So I found this local company and decided to have them handle sourcing and procuring everything we needed for this event. And most of these were marketing related things. This was things like media spend, swag, apparel, print type material items. And after the event, they offered me a job and said, we want more women at our company. We want more women in our industry. And we'd like to start an internship program where we get more youth. And I'm thinking to myself, I have no interest in going into something called procurement or supply chain. I don't even know what it is. This is completely far from fashion. But I learned and decided after doing a lot of kind of internal soul searching that I am someone who is much more interested in and is more suited for working at a startup. Smaller company where you can build, where you can create, where you can learn all aspects of the business versus going and working for a large organization where things are already set and you're more in maintain mode. So I decided to take the job. So I spent the first part of my career actually in sales. So I was going out and selling supply chain software to people in supply chain procurement and marketing procurement that wanted to buy a platform to source and procure promo, print, and packaging. And when I started doing sales, one of the things that really interested me was the whole education play around educating people. So when they are ready to make a purchase or they do have a need, that me and my company were top of mind versus doing what I thought was a very antiquated, kind of outdated process about calling and emailing and cold outbounding. So I was doing both, but I was really interested in this education demand gen piece of it. So I said to myself, I'm going to spend a year and try to build a brand for myself. And at the same time, I want to start creating my own content and providing useful information to people. And I decided, being in the supply chain procurement space, that the best channel for me was LinkedIn. I researched a lot of the other platforms at the time. Things like TikTok didn't even exist. Keep in mind, this was several years ago. And my research brought me to the fact that people in supply chain and procurement are on LinkedIn. They're going there to consume information. They're going there to network. They're going there to connect. So that was an avenue that made sense for me to prioritize. And then I sat down and said, what do I want to be known for? What am I passionate about? What do I care about? What am I selling? And where can I add value to the industry? So those are 4 key important questions that I asked myself and really wrote down, sat time and thought about those 4 things. And I decided that I wanted to be known as kind of a personality in supply chain, somebody who was maybe more loud and liked to kind of do things in a fun, spunky, unique way. And at the time, I was in marketing procurement. So I wanted to be known as an expert and a thought leader in the marketing procurement space. And I spent 12 months writing content, interviewing customers, interviewing people in the industry, going to as many events as I could, trying to network like crazy to build a brand so people would come to me and think of me as a valuable, interesting resource in marketing procurement. And what I learned in that year was that there is tremendous value in educating your peers, providing useful industry insights and information. So things that you experience, providing your own perspective. I'm not talking about going and resharing somebody's article. I'm talking about writing about your thoughts and your viewpoint on a topic. And for me, that was the marketing procurement and marketing technology space. And I fell in love with this whole idea of demand gen and personal branding, so much so that I decided to pivot my career from sales into marketing, because I knew that I loved this demand gen piece and the whole education piece and getting your content in front of the right people at the right frequency so they think of you and your brand when they're ready to buy. And I decided to, again, completely pivot, invest all my time and energy in becoming a marketer. I joined Source Day at the end of October of last year as the chief marketing officer, and have doubled the size of our marketing team and really helped guide our brand and strategy in the direct materials supply chain space.
That is incredible. That's a heck of a journey from a potential runway model to the chief marketing officer of a supply chain focused sourcing organization. So you went through this process of developing your brand. And do you feel that having developed this brand, that's been what's made you excel throughout your career?
Yeah, so I think your network will define your career. So it is so important to spend time every single week networking. Now, to me, part of networking is the branding piece and creating a market and creating an image for yourself and constantly adding value to those specific people that you've decided you want to show up for and be in front of. So I'd answer that two ways. I think networking makes your career by knowing the right people. So when you may need a new job, or you need to hire someone, or you need a referral for a contractor, or you need to purchase a new software and you need a reference, that's where you want to have a strong, solid network so you can reach out to people and ask for advice, ask for a favor, ask for input. Now, part of that is, if you want to build a strong, solid network, people are going to more likely want to engage with you and be a part of your network if you have a brand, if you are someone, if you are known for something. So I think that's really important to think about, is what are you doing today from a networking perspective? Do you have time blocked out in your calendar every single week to send text messages, handwrite a note, send a LinkedIn DM, send an interesting article, stay top of mind and continuously stay in touch with specific people? And then what are you doing to go out and build new connections? You have a network you want to maintain and stay in good graces, but you also want to be expanding and going out and meeting new people and growing and building your network. And then the third piece is the content adding value piece. And to me, that's the branding piece. It's, what do you want to be known for? How are you going to continuously add value? And for me, that value piece is providing useful insights to people, whether that's producing videos on TikTok, whether that's writing a funny tweet every day. For me, my main channel and focus is LinkedIn. I post once or twice a day, 7 days a week. And I always want to provide useful, interesting insights to people in supply chain. Now my world is 100% direct spend, direct materials procurement. So my content has become much more niche and focused in the direct materials space.
That's an incredible insight. For me personally, it was the networking piece that you talked about that resonated the most. When it comes to creating content and building a brand, that totally makes sense. I watch your content. I know how often you post. People like you and Sam Gupta, I see your content on LinkedIn. Mark Raffin, the negotiations ninja, I see his content on LinkedIn and on TikTok. So it's like constant reaffirmation of your subject matter expertise. But the networking piece, that building the network, building allies, building a group of close-knit friends and colleagues that you can draw upon, is something I never thought about as part of building a brand. I guess that's part of me just being a friendly person and trying to talk to people and help people. But yeah, it does go a long way towards establishing you and your bona fides.
And one of the things, David, that I'll say that I think is really important is to niche down. So if you try to be everything to everyone, people gloss over that. So pick one specific thing that you want to be known for. That may be that you are obsessed with Bradley Cooper, and you want to all your content and everything you produce is all about Bradley Cooper and finding him and knowing all about him. It may be that you are an expert in supplier diversity. It may be that you are a go-to resource in the indirect space. It may be contract management, it may be facilities. Just pick something, and it needs to be something that you like and are interested in and passionate about, and you do have some knowledge about, so you can add value. But I see some people struggle and they'll say, I'm a marketing consultant, and that is so broad. There's so many different facets of marketing. What specifically is your expertise? Do you specialize in SEO? Do you specialize in video editing? Do you specialize in YouTube optimization? Do you specialize in email? There are many different subsets. And if you are very specific with your content and who you are, I think in the long run, you will get more clients, you'll have a larger network, you'll find more value in that. So really, really important to niche down and be specific and pick something that you want to be known for. And then you need to have a strategy around how you're going to continuously produce content around that subject matter. So for David, for you and I, we both work and live and breathe supply chain, right? So I'm talking to customers, producing content, going to events. I'm always listening and hearing and learning about what are the pain points, what are the challenges of people in direct spend and direct materials procurement. Same for you in your specific space, you're living it. So you have a lot to write about because you can talk about your day-to-day and your real world experiences. So again, pick something where content creation is easy and top of mind, and it's not going to take a tremendous amount of effort. You don't want to pick something where you're stressing out. It's going to take you, 3 hours a day to do research and try to write something. That's not doable.
It's not sustainable. Yeah. Okay, so we've got networking, we've got content creation, we've got keep it close to your chest, to the things that you know. What are some of the other key factors of building this personal brand in your mind?
Yeah, so I think it's important to pick one channel and master it instead of trying to do everything. So I'll give you an example. I have a friend who runs marketing for a startup, and she decided that they needed to increase their branding and visibility, and they were going to go out and just start posting content on like 5 or 6 social platforms. The challenge with that, with a small team and very limited resources, they weren't doing any of those 5 well. So they were just throwing content out there. It was very similar what they were posting on each platform, which isn't right because every platform has a different strategy and a different form and a different length and different ways that you should be presenting content. So then, she comes back to me after 3 months and is like, this isn't working. Well, the reason it didn't work is they didn't pick the one channel where their customers go or their customers are the most. In the case of building a personal brand, if you're a practitioner, it's where are your colleagues going to get their information? Where are they going to network? And then just focus on that one channel and crush it and do it really well. Once you've mastered one channel, go ahead and add a second. If you master a second, go ahead and add a third, but don't do them all at once. So you need to think about where is your audience, and then how can you get in front of them in that channel. It could be TikTok, it could be LinkedIn, it could be email, it could be going to in-person trade shows, it could be attending specific virtual events, whatever that means for you and the network that you're trying to build. So that's something that I just see people continuously makes mistakes over and over again about trying to do too much. One channel, master it before you move on. The other thing is being able to get feedback from your network that you're building. So I'll give you an example. If I go on, this morning, I posted something on LinkedIn about supplier relationship management, something that's really important to me personally. It's something that our software that my company sells adds value and helps with. And I think it's something that's really becoming top of mind for a lot of professionals in our industry. So I wrote a post. I'm going to go back on and look at my metrics. How many people are reacting? How many people are commenting? And most importantly, what are people saying in the comments? Are they writing thoughtful, meaningful responses? Are they asking for more information? Am I getting DMs from people saying, hey, you know, I'm following you on LinkedIn. I find the content you're producing just to be super useful. Keep it up. What sort of signs are you getting that are not necessarily data-driven about what you're doing out there? And if you're not getting positive feedback, one, you need to do it long enough. If you do something a couple days or a week, it's not enough time. But do something long enough. In my opinion, 90 days is a good benchmark to see, is something working? Is it not working? Maybe it's working, but you need to pivot it a little bit, or maybe you need to stop doing it altogether. But getting that feedback loop from your network is so, so important, because if you're not getting it, it knows that what you're doing isn't working, and that you need to pivot and kind of change your strategy a bit.
Wow. Great thoughts, great leadership there. I just want to put it out to everyone. The Q&A is open. The chat is open. If you have any questions for Sarah, please put it in the chat and I will make sure to ask. I struggle with content creation. I have a creative brain and I write a lot. And then I edit a lot. And then I go, yeah, I can't put this on LinkedIn. It's not professional enough. When I look at building a brand, when you built your brand, how did you manage to continuously put out content and still be your authentic self? Because we do have to temper it for our audience, right?
Yeah, so I would say first part of what you said, the content creation piece, I think is what most people struggle with. I know when I was getting started, that was my biggest challenge is, okay, I sit down at my computer and I have a blank document. What do I say? How do I come up with something? So the hardest part is the content creation. Now, for me, I am super comfortable writing. I'm super comfortable coming on live shows, but I still sometimes get a little nervous if I'm shooting selfie videos of me just talking. I don't know why. It's just something. So we all have these things that make us a little bit uncomfortable. And my advice to you is just get started and post something. It doesn't have to be world changing. It doesn't have to be some amazing masterpiece. Go on, write 3 sentences and post it. Take a picture of you with your kids or your pets or with your colleagues and get it posted. So the starting, I think, is the hardest part. And for me, I like to do things very, very consistently. So for it to work for me, I need to have it in my calendar and I need to do it every day or it just doesn't happen. So I consciously blocked out time and did it every single day for 30 days. For me, once I do that long enough, it just becomes a natural habit and part of my life. I always am thinking of content everywhere I go. When I'm at the grocery store, when I'm with friends, because it's just become a part of my life. So figure out how to make content creation and ideas a part of your life. Maybe it's when you drive. That's your best brainstorm. Open up the recorder on your phone and just start talking into your phone. Or maybe it's getting ideas from your colleagues, or if you're doing interviews, just so figure out what that is and be consistent and block time off in your calendar. I think that's really, really important from the content creation piece. And then the second piece of the content creation is it always doesn't have to be your own ideas. Interview people. So a lot of my posts that I do are actually dialogue with me interviewing buyers and people in direct spend. So I'll get on a phone, I'm having a conversation with somebody, I'm talking to a customer, I'm listening in on a sales call, or I reach out to somebody on LinkedIn and say, hey, can we chat for a few minutes? I won't use the name or company, of course, unless I have permission, but that will spur a post. And then I'll have the dialogue where it's me, and then it's the person, and then it's me, and then it's the person. Great way to come up with content. Another way to manage that is a podcast. So I just launched, me and my team at Source Day just launched a podcast called What the Duck, another supply chain podcast. And the duck is our mascot and character for the podcast. And we interview people in the direct procurement space. So I do 1 to 3 interviews every single week for the podcast. Well, that is incredible posting material to have the recording to share, to break that up into what I call shorts. So you can pull out 2 or 3 minute clips. So from one interview, I can easily get 10 posts, 10 separate pieces of content that I can use. So if you struggle with coming up with your own ideas or being in the spotlight, look at that interview strategy for you and test it out and see if it will work.
Thank you. I'm going to do that. You may have a new podcast competition in a little while. I'm going to go out into the living room and start getting to work right now.
Here's my, I'm in my podcasting studio. Here's my fancy podcasting mic.
Ooh, very nice, very nice. So for the most part, we've been talking about personal branding to the external world, but having a personal brand helps you within your organization as well, right? It's more than building a reputation. Can you talk a little bit about how that could help building your brand internally? Yeah,
so I kind of describe it as 2 parts of branding. You've got your external brand. So that's what we've been talking about, producing content, being known to a larger network. But then you also have an internal brand at your company. And I would argue that if you are in supply chain and procurement, it probably is one of the most challenged departments in the company, in that people don't really know what you do or the value that you add, and often think of you as someone who's just on their computer or processing purchase orders, doesn't really understand the strategic value, and therefore it doesn't have the coolest or sexiest label. So I think it's important to sit down with your immediate team and then interview stakeholders from all the different departments and try to get a sense of what is the reputation of your procurement organization today. When somebody thinks of your team, what is the first word that comes to mind? What is the first phrase that comes to mind? What value do they think you provide? So you do that exercise yourself of what you think people think, and then you go actually ask the people to get their real feedback. And then come back and collect as a team and think about what you want your brand to be based on the feedback you've received. So who do you want to become as a team and as an organization? I would challenge you to come up with a fun title, with a fun mascot, come up with a logo for your team, and then test it out. Go out to your stakeholders and, give them some different options and get some feedback. Let people, give you their insight, and then go back and come up with something a little more final, and then throw it out to the organization internally and test it out. But if you have a cool, fun name, if you have a cool, fun mascot, if you have a cool, fun image or logo, I think it will help you get more buy-in and more engagement, and people will be more likely to want to engage and understand your value. I would argue, I don't even know if I love the name procurement. I don't know really what that means or what that does. So how can you come up with something that's more fun and clever? I host a supply chain group twice a month. I started it during COVID. We used to meet every single Wednesday. We became like this global family where sometimes we'd be on for hours and hours. And it was people, anybody that was associated with the supply chain space. So buy side, consultants, suppliers, and we kind of became like this supply chain family. And one of the members of the group is an incredible illustrator. And so during the meeting, she would draw all of us. And then she would share out after this awesome drawing of all of us. And they were just so cool. If you scroll back and look at some of my old posts, you'll see I actually have posted several of them. And one of my favorite illustrations that she did was she made us all into a rap group. And then she named our band. And then she gave us all these hilarious rapper names that related to what each of us did in procurement. And I should have, in preparation, I should have had this drawing queued up and a list of some of the names because they were absolutely hysterical. Now, if you were running a supply chain team and you came in and rebranded yourself as this really funny rap group and you had this clever name about what you did and you all had these costumes and you all had these names, I can bet that you likely are going to get some visibility and some recognition within the company.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. Wow. You know what would be interesting? It would be really interesting if we took some random person, say Kathy Perna from ISM, New Jersey, and we built a personal brand around her. Do you think we could do that in the last 15 minutes we have here?
I'm down. If Kathy's in, let's bring her up.
Kathy, you're on mute.
I know, on purpose.
Hi, Kathy. We're
Hello.
gonna build a personal brand for you today.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so let's start with the research phase. So I'm gonna ask you a few questions, and David, feel free to chime in as well if there's any questions that you think are relevant and important for us to ask. So I'm gonna start. I'm actually gonna open up a little thing on my computer and take some notes as well. So, who are you, Kathy?
I'm the executive director of ISM New Jersey. I am I try to think out of the box. I try to come up with new ideals, new incentives for our membership. And my goal really is to increase our membership, but also to increase our message of what ISM New Jersey is and how we can help those in the supply chain to develop themselves.
Would you say you're a leader?
I think I'm a leader,
A creator?
a creator, yes.
Maybe a visionary?
Thank you. I would like to think that.
Okay.
What do you like doing?
I like what we're doing right now. I have to say, diving into this during and really picking up the speed during COVID really got me going, really enticed me to get out there a lot more, get in front of the audience more, because I was always behind the scenes. I was always doing everything else, and I wanted to showcase everybody else. But this brought me out a little bit more. And I really enjoy interacting with all different types of people. And as you were talking, Sarah, I've never been on LinkedIn as much as I have, these last 2.5, 3 years. And I've never made so many connections possible that I ever thought about.
What about personally? What do you like doing outside of work?
Actually, I love reading. I love my dogs. I just told Sarah, hot flash, I'm getting another dog after having a 9-month-old puppy, because I think I just appreciate the animals and what they can do for you. Love my kids, and I have one grandchild. So, and I have posted a lot of this on LinkedIn too, some of the personal side of myself.
What are you good at?
What am I good at? I don't know. There are a lot of things I feel I'm very good at. I love bringing people together. I love planning. I love event planning the most. I love doing a wonderful type of program. I love doing the conferences. And my favorite is being able to say, 14th year, we are doing our Women in Leadership Conference. And being able to bring ideas like that to your board, at that time predominantly male, and having them embrace it. And by the way, that's our theme this year, embrace. And having them embrace it and get their blessing and their confidence. And now we're in our 14th year, but I'd say my most favorite thing is planning events.
If you had to produce a video or write content for 30 days straight, what would you want to write about or share or talk about?
Boy, what would I want to share? I think I'd probably share some of the challenges that we go through, because I think everybody faces challenges, and some of the pluses, of course, but what else could we do? I mean, a lot of the content I do put out there, I do understand is more advertising of our events that we're doing, but I think I'd like to focus on maybe real people out there and what they're doing in their everyday jobs. Not sure what else. I have to think a little more.
The people that you are in front of today, your network, right? The people that you're talking to and engaging with regularly, where do they go to get their information? Where are they spending their time?
I'm not sure, but I believe it's networking. Actually, some of the networking that I've done has actually developed.
And how are they networking? What are the specific channels?
I would think it's LinkedIn, and also a lot of the people that are on today are actually ISM members from other chapters. So what I've developed is a partnership with all different chapters, and I funnel all the information or all the programs we do to those chapter leaders, which then gets dived out to all the other members, and then hopefully it's shared within their networks, within their other networks.
Okay. So I've been taking notes on everything you've been saying as we're kind of going through this self-reflection process. So something that I threw down as a possible kind of personal brand strategy for you, if you were going to start we'll answer this two ways. One, with you being the executive director and in your current role. And then one would be if you had your own company. If you, Kathy, were having your own company, what sort of brand would you want to be building and focusing on? So,
well, I didn't mention it, but I do have my own company.
Oh,
Interesting, right? Yes, I do have my own company, and basically what I do in my company is I am out there as a resource for other ISM chapters, and I continue to do what I'm doing for ISM New Jersey, but on different specific roles for the other chapters.
okay. So a couple things that came to mind for you would be becoming an expert and producing content and building a brand around how to run events that increase the membership of your trade association. So I could see you creating a lot of content around all of your experiences with coordinating, running, and managing events, and specifically how to do those events effectively to grow membership. That was an idea that came to mind for more of a personal brand. For Kathy as the executive director of ISM New Jersey, I could see you building a brand around sharing challenges experienced running a trade association.
Mhm.
And then you could do every day, a hurdle, something that went wrong. And then you talk about the challenge, but then also the win. What did you learn from it? What came out of it? And then from what you've said, now we haven't actually gone out and done any research. I'm just doing this based on what you said. It seems like the platform that would make the most sense for you to focus building your brand around would be to start with LinkedIn. And that would be posting video, that would be posting images, that would be posting carousels, that would be doing polls. So there's many different types of posts that you can do on LinkedIn. But I would recommend that would be the right approach for you, is posting every single day on LinkedIn about, again, how to run events that increase the membership for your trade association, or challenges you should be ready to face when running a membership organization.
I like that.
You could even start a podcast and bring on executive directors from all over the world that run trade associations and interview them and find their story. How did they get into the association space? How did they land the top gig? What are their biggest pain points today? How are they overcoming them? You do an interview, that's a long form content video, that's video clips, that's a series of blogs. So you also not only do you tell your own stories and experiences, but you leverage all of the other people that are also in the trade association space.
Great. Love your ideals. Always do.
That's
And
incredible.
then David, for you, again, I would challenge someone in your role to go through kind of that same process. Now you're in a different position because you're a practitioner. You're actually on the buy side in a procurement organization. So yours is going to be a little different. I'm on the supplier side. Kathy's on kind of an interesting straddling between both, running a membership association. But for our listeners today, my guess is that most of them are in a position like you. They're on the buy side, they're in supply chain, they want to get more visibility and create a better brand within their own company, but then they also want to potentially create a brand for themselves outside of work.
Agree. So they would have to go through that same exercise, right? Understanding what their values are, understanding what they're good at, and then defining where their content belongs, right? Some people, it might be a good idea for them to build out a TikTok following rather than trying to replicate, that on LinkedIn.
Yeah, and then the step which we didn't do today because we didn't have time is actually going out. I would also go interview some of Kathy's peers, and I would ask them these questions. Describe Kathy to me. What are her strengths? What are her weaknesses? What is she good at? And then that will also give you interesting intel and information as you're shaping your brand strategy, and also finding out where does her network go to consume their information. Kathy said LinkedIn, and that may be right, but it may not be right. Maybe people in trade associations are on YouTube, and maybe she needs to create a YouTube channel and start producing content, or maybe TikTok is a great platform. So she assumed LinkedIn, but until we went out and did the research, we wouldn't want to just put everything into LinkedIn.
Right. This has been a fantastic session, Sarah. I love the idea of creating a personal brand. And for us as procurement people, where we've had the reputation in some cases of being a bottleneck or being paper pushers or being the last step in the chain to get a deal done, building or redefining the brand that we have is so super important. And then for us personally, becoming that subject matter expert, both within and without of our organizations, is such a huge thing. It's a huge boon for our confidence, for our visibility, and for our overall well-being, right? Because
Well,
I
I also think, David, it's something to really note that's important is at some point in your life, you're going to be looking for a new job.
This is true.
It may not be today. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be for 5 or 10 years. But when you are in a position where you are looking for a new job, the people that have built a solid brand, have skill and expertise and are known for something are the ones who are going to get the jobs and the people reaching out to them. So if for nothing else, think about building a brand for yourself to propel your career and get that role or that title or get to go work for the company that's your dream. And the way to do that is through building that brand.
Amazing conversation, Sarah. It's always a pleasure talking to you. We did not get to, what was it that you wanted? Tiny Dancer? I didn't get to that yet, but I'll remember. I didn't forget. Kathy, thank you so much for being a good sport and participating. I know I kind of sprung this on you at the last minute, but you know, when we do that interview for your personal brand, I'm pretty sure everyone will say the same things about you: leader, thoughtful, visionary. And I just want to thank you in front of everyone and Sarah for all the work, the hard work that you do for us at ISM New Jersey. Sarah, again, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for participating. We're just about at time. So I'll give Sarah one last opportunity to explain what she does at Source Day and, you know, be the queen of marketing and personal branding that we already know you are.
If you're looking to build your network, get advice or, you know, help with branding, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I write and talk a lot about women in ERP, manufacturing, and direct materials, direct spend procurement. So if any of that is of interest to you, you can follow me, look at my content, interact. I also host 4 LinkedIn live shows. I host a podcast. I'm always looking for experts and guests. So if coming on one of my shows is of interest to you as a great first step in building your brand and getting your name out there, do not be shy about shooting me a note. And I'm happy to have a conversation to see if it makes sense to bring you on one of the shows.
Well, you can reach out to me and talk about supplier relationship management. I live in that world day to day right now, and I could have a whole bunch of stories about the fist fights that I go through virtually with some of my suppliers if you ever want to talk. Again, thank you so much. Last thoughts, anyone?
Thank
Kathy?
you.
Thanks again, Sarah. Everybody have a great day, and I'll see you next month.
Thank you.